Thank you, everybody, and thank you for being here with us today. I'm Lillian Swatek, and I'm one of the clinical dietitians here in the Cancer Center. So I see a lot of patients undergoing treatment, but I do also see patients once they're done with treatment and have any kind of nutrition issues. Make sure this goes. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right, quite all right. Okay, so what I would really want to talk about today is what can we do to strengthen our bodies so that our own bodies can help with that cancer fight. And we talk a lot about immune system, right? So there's things we can do in our lifestyle practices, in nutrition and exercise that can help strengthen our own immune system so it can help us fight and resist that cancer. So that's where the benefits of plant-based diets come in. Doesn't mean you have to be a vegan. But eating more plant foods. I read a statistic one time that I was kind of sad about. 45% of Americans don't even get one serving of fruit or vegetable on a daily, regular basis. So, as a dietitian, to me, that makes me really sad. So what is it in a plant-based diet especially that can really help us out? And researchers, I think it was in the 1990s, where they found the first what they call phytochemical. Okay, phytochemical is a chemical in plants that help our cells resist cancer. I think the first one that they found was sulforaphane in broccoli, if I remember correctly. So what do these phytochemicals do? Well, they can reduce oxidation and inflammation in the body, okay, because that is something that may promote cancer. Slow cancer growth, help trigger the death of damaged cells, okay, help regulate hormones, help block the ability of cancer-causing agents, which we call carcinogens, to be formed in the body. It can stimulate our immune system and prevent DNA damage and help repair DNA. Okay. And what we found with these plant chemicals too, or actually here are some examples before I get into that. Lignans is one phytochemical, and there's actually hundreds, if not thousands, of these things that are in our plant foods. Lignans is one example that we get in flaxseed. Lycopenes, maybe you've heard about that one with tomatoes, and you especially get a good concentrated dose if you like to use tomato sauce. That's been implicated in reducing risk for even prostate cancer, for instance. Limonoids in tangerines and other citrus fruit. Phytates that we get in wheat germ and whole grain products. And there's the one broccoli that I mentioned, the sulforaphane. And what they found with these phytochemicals is that if you have a variety of them together, they amplify the cancer protection. So they found that when you take the lycopene from your tomatoes and the sulforaphane from your broccoli and eat broccoli and let's say with some tomato sauce or with tomatoes in a salad, you actually increase that cancer fighting potential of those phytochemicals. So eating a variety of things, one food's not going to do it. Okay, so that's why I have this beautiful picture here with all these wonderful colors. You've probably heard about eating the rainbow. That's why we say that. Okay, the more variety, the better. So, if you're going to have a salad and you have some iceberg lettuce with some dressing and maybe a sprinkle of tomatoes, try to make it where you have more vegetables in that salad. Getting a good variety of things is always going to be more beneficial. So you could see here, cruciferous vegetables have some good ingredients in them. Actually, all plant foods have these good phytochemicals that can help our bodies. Okay, gourds, squash, butternut squash, cantaloupe, zucchini. I'm not going to name them all. You can see them all here. Okay, the more variety, the better. Okay. Now, I did have one person one time, I'll never forget this as a consult. She came to me because she wanted to eat healthier and she wanted to lose weight. And the first thing she said to me, well, I got to tell you right off the bat, I'm allergic to every single fruit and vegetable out there. What do you do with that? So I don't know. I think I said, well, can we get some whole grains in you at least? Maybe you'll get some good plant chemicals that way. Really, the benefit you get from eating the whole plant food is much more than you would get in a supplement. For instance, they looked at vitamin E, okay, and using supplements of vitamin E to see if that made a difference in our risk for cancer. It didn't do so well, but getting the vitamin E in, let's say, toasted wheat germ or whole grain products was much more powerful. So getting these things in a powdered supplement really aren't going to be maybe for that lady who eats no fruits or vegetables. Maybe if she can tolerate fruit and vegetable powdered supplement might be good, but really you get the most benefit from eating the whole plant food itself. And again, the greater variety, the better. Whole grains have those good phytochemicals in them too. And yes, whole grains do have carbohydrates in them. Our body needs carbohydrates to fuel our muscles. But unfortunately, Western diet has too many refined carbohydrates. Refined meaning that they strip out all those good fiber parts of the plant foods. So our diet consists of way too much ultra processed food with a lot of white sugar, white flour. So I always encourage getting things that are 100% whole wheat. If you get a bread loaf and the first ingredient says 100% whole wheat, that means most of the product is made with that whole grain. If the first ingredient says wheat and then says whole grain, it means that first ingredient is going to be most of that product. So whenever you can get any kind of grain products with 100% whole wheat as the first ingredient, you can get that with pastas if you want to increase your fiber intake that way, whole wheat tortillas, barley, bulgur, oats, quinoa, brown rice. Corn and popcorn, believe it or not, have really good plant chemicals in them too. I was surprised about the popcorn because I love popcorn. The only thing with popcorn is avoid the microwave bags, and popping your own with a little bit of oil is probably the healthiest way to do it. Oatmeal is a good way to get some plant chemicals in it too. Plants have developed these plant chemicals to give them some protection against the elements. I always like to use the example of a tomato plant. So you have this tomato growing on the vine, it's outside, it's in the sun, 24, whatever amount of hours it is in the sun every day for days or weeks while it's growing. If we were to be out in the sun, as long as that tomato plant, what do you think would happen to us? We'd be sunburned to a crisp. But plants have developed these wonderful phytochemicals that, us by eating them, it confers us some of the benefit there. So let's look at protein. I'm talking about immune system. A lot of my patients, they're undergoing treatment if they're losing a lot of weight because they have side effects, poor appetite. I worry about them losing weight because that means they're probably losing some muscle mass. Okay, when we lose muscle mass, it actually hurts our immune system. It weakens our immune system. So especially going through treatment, protein needs can be higher. As we get older, our protein needs can get higher too. And yes, you can meet your protein needs with a vegan diet. It's just a lot harder to do. Well, what we found out from the American Institute of Cancer Research, they look at research from all over the world, and they looked at, okay, if you have a plant-based diet that includes some animal foods, okay, is that worse than eating a straight vegan diet? Well, actually, they found there's benefits to both. So including animal foods in the diet is really okay, but I definitely encourage the healthier ones if you can. Skinless poultry, seafood that's not deep fried, low-fat dairy products, again, have lots of good vitamins, minerals, eggs, soy foods, nuts and nut butters, bean, peas, lentils, okay? Not only are you getting protein in these foods, you're getting healthy carbohydrates in some of them too. But anyways, going back to the protein. So if you're going through cancer treatment, try to include a protein source at every meal or snack if you can. The RDA for protein is about, I believe, 45 grams for women, 55 grams for men. But when you're going through cancer treatment, sometimes it could be doubled or even more. Even as we get older, in our older years, our protein needs can increase by 30 or more %. So it's important. I encourage you, if you're not a protein eater, if you can't get it through food sources, that's when I might suggest a protein drink, but I'd rather you get it from food whenever you can. So the protein sources that maybe aren't so great. The American Institute of Cancer Research, they have found that there is increased risk with eating more than 18 ounces per week of red meat, and that's beef, pork, and lamb. Okay, so you can have some red meat in the diet. It's really okay because it does give you a lot of good B vitamins, iron, good protein. Okay, so if we look at, okay, how much do you have for a meal? 3 or 4 ounces a meal. You're able to eat maybe 3 to 4 portions like that in a week. So mix it up with your protein sources. I just get worried when somebody eats red meat twice a day for lunch and both dinner. So if we can mix it up with more chicken, fish, turkey, other sources of protein. Processed meats, they actually found that there is no safe level of eating processed meats. And that's things like bologna, salami, lunch meats, hot dogs. Okay, bacon is such a favorite one. Okay, now it doesn't mean you can't ever eat bacon, because usually when I say that, it's like, huh? Doesn't mean you can't eat bacon. I just encourage patients not to eat it on a very regular basis. Okay, save it for a treat, save it for going out to eat with your family, maybe for a breakfast one day or Christmas morning. I think that's the one time a year that I might make bacon because everybody wants it. Okay, so it doesn't mean you can't have these foods, but please don't make them a regular part of your diet. Okay. And there are ingredients in processed meats, the way that it's cooked, there's all kinds of things, and they can produce what are called carcinogens. Remember, we talked about that before. So if you are going to eat some bacon, it'd be great if you can eat some fruit and vegetable with it. It might offer you a little bit of protection. And let's talk about grilling. They actually found that your cancer risk does increase the more char-grilled meats that you eat. Any animal protein, whether it's fish, chicken, turkey, beef, pork, lamb, if you char it, cook it at high temperatures, basically burning it, okay? A lot of times people love that char flavor that's on meat. Unfortunately, it produces cancer-causing agents that your body has to deal with, okay? So try to, there's some things you could do to reduce the production of those carcinogens when you grill meat. And we're not just talking outside on the grill, open flame, we're even talking about charring meat in a pan. So being careful not to do that. So some things you could do is marinate your meats for, a good 30 minutes before you put them on the grill or in the grill pan. Okay, that will help reduce the production of these carcinogens. You could see the long names: polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons or heterocyclic amines. I never remember that. I always have to read it. But anyway, just so you know, cancer-causing agents. The other thing that you can do is maybe a little bit different cooking. Use a piece of foil, maybe flip the meat more often so you don't get so much on that open flame. Cut the meat up in smaller pieces so you're not on that, open flame for longer periods of time. Okay, so there's definitely things that you can do if you like to grill outside. Smoked meats do have higher risk for cancer too. It does produce some of these chemicals. Okay. So again, your best bet is your fresh meat. So for instance, I'd rather you eat maybe a pork roast that you baked in the oven rather than getting ham, okay, because that's much more processed. As far as what an ideal plate looks like, okay, I remember growing up where the meat was like the main focus of the meal, okay. When we asked, well, what's for dinner? It was always like, okay, we're going to have chicken, or we're going to have beef, or we're going to have this, this, and this. So usually it's half a plate full of meat and maybe some starch like, potatoes, rice, noodles, again, things that are pretty refined. Okay, that was you. And then maybe a little bit of vegetable on the side. Okay, but we need to change our thinking about that. Really, most of our diet should come from those plant foods. At least half your plate, should have vegetables or some maybe combination of fruit and vegetables. A third of our plate can be those good carbohydrates. We need some of those, but make them whole grain, make it brown rice, make it whole wheat pasta, make it a small baked potato or some sweet potato slices. Okay. And then the other fourth of your plate could be for your meat portion. Okay. And again, fresh meat is better, less red meat. And don't forget about beans and legumes, nuts and seeds. Those are good foods that have plenty of fiber in them. Fiber has been shown to reduce risk of recurrence, let's say, for breast cancer. Fiber helps cling to bits of estrogen, so you get rid of it, and that it may confer some benefit that way. We don't know if they do that for melanoma, but all my recommendations here for overall reduction of cancer risk. Let's talk about sugar, because I get so many questions on that. What about sugar? I get a lot of people asking me that question. Will the sugar feed cancer? Has everybody heard that question? I get that so much. Well, guess what? Sugar does feed cancer, but it feeds every cell in our body. Okay. Whenever you eat food, you produce blood sugar. Okay. And that sugar feeds every cell in your body. So if you were to take away all sugar and even all carbohydrate, guess what? You'd still have blood sugar in your body feeding all the cells in your body. You have to have sugar in your blood. It never goes down to zero. But what they found with sugars, especially added sugars, is we can really overdo them. It's big excursions of sugar that can cause problems. Let's say you're drinking lots of soda and that's your main beverage all day, and you're having these excursions of sugar all day long. Well, guess what your body has to do to handle that and to keep your blood sugar under control? It has to give off large amounts of insulin, okay, to keep those blood sugars under control. And they found that having high levels of insulin might help cancer grow. It doesn't cause the cancer, but it might help that cancer grow a little bit better. Okay, so you do not have to avoid all sweets, okay, but I do encourage you to avoid sweetened beverages. That's when we get especially large excursions, of those sugars and carbs. Okay, so try to stay away from regular sodas, juice drinks. I mean, it's fine to have a glass of juice. Maybe you like orange juice, but keep your juice intake maybe to about 8 ounces per day. That's plenty. And make water or other unsweetened beverages your main beverages throughout the day. As far as how much sugar, ideally less than 25 grams of added sugar per day. Okay, so now in the nutrition label, they actually put that on there, the added sugar, not the naturally occurring. If something has fruit in it, it's going to have some naturally occurring sugar, but what is the amount that they add to it? And you can see 1 can of soda already bypasses that whole recommendation right there. Okay. 1, sweet treat, maybe it's a scoop of ice cream, a piece of pie, that could be anywhere from 15 to 30 grams of added sugar. So you can have some sweet treats. We have the holidays coming up. I don't want to be that dietitian that says, no, you can't have any pumpkin pie. It's perfectly fine to have some sweet treats. Just don't make it a major portion of your meal. Make sure you're eating plenty of other good things with it. And having a sweet treat is really okay. I do have to mention a little bit on artificial sweeteners. They haven't found a significant or strong evidence to link artificial sweeteners with cancer risk. However, there has been some evidence that these artificial sweeteners eaten in large amounts can increase insulin resistance, which isn't a good thing. It might kind of keep you hooked to your sweet tooth, which may not be a good thing either. So there's other things that maybe aren't so good about eating artificial sweeteners. I'd rather a person, have small amounts of regular sugar or use stevia in the raw or monk fruit extract. Those are plant-based sweeteners that don't raise blood sugar. So if you like to, have something else to use, those would be good ones. And then alcohol. Alcohol has been shown to be a carcinogen. We used to think alcohol was good for the heart, and maybe there is some slight benefit with that, but we found that it does increase cancer risk across the board. So if you are going to drink, you really shouldn't have more than 1 a day. And even that may be too much with certain cancers. So yeah, no more than 1 a day for women, 2 a day for men, okay? Because they definitely increase cancer risk. Having a healthy weight, they found that obesity, being overweight, definitely increases the risk for cancer. So especially after treatment, not gaining weight is what I usually tell patients. If we can at least not have you gain weight, because that can increase your risk of recurrence and overall increase your risk for cancer. Exercise has been shown to fight cancer too. So a recommendation is 150 minutes a week of some kind of physical activity. So that can actually fight. And remember that exercise helps maintain your muscle mass. Okay. So one of the things that I tell patients, even in treatment, if you're able to do any little bits of activity, that can just help you hold on to that muscle mass. But especially after treatment, getting into doing regular physical activity is one way you can reduce the chance of that cancer risk. These are my references here. So if you want to look up more information about cancer and nutrition, these are some good websites to go to. All righty. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And Anne will finish this up for us. Thank you.